My son was incarcerated with the Arizona Department of Corrections for 5 years.
I was incarcerated for 5 years. During the 5 years that I spent incarcerated, I witnessed multiple instances of people's humanity not being acknowledged. I've seen people die in the pods and their bodies left on the ground for hours. I've seen people assaulted by corrections staff. I've seen people assaulted by other inmates. I've seen unspeakable violence that would not have happened if there was appropriate oversight. How can we expect people to be rehabilitated? How can we hold people accountable for what they've done if the people who are there to hold everybody else accountable are themselves not accountable to anyone?
I remember coming to visit Dustin one time. He had been incarcerated about a year at this point, but had just moved to another yard, and I showed up for visitation. He had 2 black eyes. He was just a mess, and it was clearly fresh. His face was cut. He said that a group of inmates had jumped him in his cell over his TV. But he asked me to keep it quiet, don't overreact, it's okay, it looks worse than it is. He really went out of his way to try to reassure me that it wasn't as bad as I thought, but after visitation, one of the guards came up to him and told him that she needed to see him afterwards, and they made him sign a release saying that he wasn't in fear of his life, or that, basically there's nothing to see here, folks. And I realized that was one in a series of events that just made me realize that they're really only there to dehumanize and debilitate.
When I first started witnessing people's civil liberties be violated, I thought that somebody was going to have to show up to set things right, that somehow there had to be some kind of buffer in place to account for that. And what I found is that there isn't one. There are no mechanisms to hold the people accountable that are charged with holding everybody else accountable.
When Dustin first got arrested, I was in bed in the fetal position for a week. I was devastated. I didn't know what to do or who to turn to. And that feeling did not get any better as time went on. We had regularly scheduled phone calls and things like that. We did everything we could to keep in touch, but I was always afraid. If he didn't call on that schedule, I was panicked. My heart was racing. It was, I wondered, is he okay? Has he been arrested? Has he been put in solitary confinement? What's going on? And there's just this constant state that you can't protect your child. As a mother, that's the worst place to be in, I think. It was aggravating because I never felt like he was safe. He is locked up in this system where there's no regard for humanity, where other inmates can assault one another with impunity, where the guards, we had a situation where Dustin was going to a class and the guard asked him, "Where are you going?" He said, "To my SO class." She said, "No, where are you going?" He said, "My SO class." Well, she wanted to know what physical location that was in, but she wasn't asking that. And she finally decided that he was insubordinate and he was in solitary confinement for 21 days. He lost his good time and he was transferred to a higher level yard. So, you can follow all the rules, you can do everything right, but that doesn't guarantee that you'll be treated fairly or even treated human, honestly.
If independent oversight were in place, then the people who cross boundaries, the corrections officers, the bad apples, if you will, that make the rest of them look bad, will be held to account and be judged by the same standards as everybody else. And without that, the system cannot have integrity.
We really need some oversight in this system to bring some dignity to these people so that they can resume a productive life and contribute to society when they come home. When people operate with impunity, that are supposed to be in charge of our safety, that it is not a fair or equitable system and that people's humanity, people's lives are lost. We need to have some accountability. These people are responsible for holding us as citizens accountable for our own actions, but they are accountable to no one for the way that they exercise that authority.
When I got out, finding stable employment was incredibly difficult. I had employers that would offer to promote me, and then when HR looked more closely at my background, instead of promoting me, they would fire me. That happened at 3 different companies, and a number of other circumstances that led to, I've had as many as 10 jobs a year. And I would always disclose the nature of my background going into the job, but then later on down the road, something would always come up and I would always be let go. So I quickly came to the realization that if I'm going to have a stable foundation, of employment in my life, I was going to have to create it for myself. And if I'm going to create that, why create it for just myself? Why not create a space that other people that are facing the same circumstances as me can step into and survive and thrive and overcome their past. I started Justice Java to create opportunities and employment opportunities for the formerly incarcerated so that they can build a successful future on a solid foundation of financial stability. It is incredibly difficult to find gainful employment when you have a criminal record, and my company seeks to end that stigma and show people that 96% of everybody that we incarcerate is going to come back home at some point, and if we want them to be successful in our communities, they have to have a place to be successful. That starts with a job and a house.
We are just one family.
We are just one family. We are just one family.